February 2026. Charles Hayes, a Tennessee farmer, put 10 John Deere tractors on trailers and pulled out of a dealership his family had trusted for decades. He did not trade up within the brand. He came back running Massey Ferguson. Same month. Kent Harlson, farming 4,200 acres, moved 11 John Deere tractors out and brought in 6 Massey Fergusons. A third operator gave up 4 fully paid-off John Deere 8R units and replaced them with 3 Massey Ferguson 8S models. This is Farm Gear Pro. No brand loyalty, no dealer talk, just the story of what is actually happening in American agriculture right now. Let's go. 3 operations, 3 separate decisions, all landing in the same place in early 2026. The price difference behind every one of these moves sits at roughly $30,000 per equivalent tractor between John Deere and Massey Ferguson. 6 tractors is $180,000 back in the operation. 11 tractors is over $330,000 saved on iron alone. 3 operations, 3 fleet switches, $30,000 per tractor price gap, 2026. On a commercial farm where seed costs, input prices, and interest rates are all pressing at the same time, $330,000 is not a small number. That is operating capital. That is a debt payment. That is the difference between replacing a tired piece of iron and running it another season. Moving 10 or 11 tractors is not a simple brand swap. It means new attachments, retraining operators, rebuilding parts inventory, finding new service contacts, and walking away from years of maintenance knowledge built around one platform. Every farm manager knows that pain is real. So when Charles Hayes decided that pain was worth absorbing, the question is not what Massey Ferguson did right. Charles Hayes ate that cost and left anyway. What did John Deere do to make that happen? The question is what John Deere did to make a 30-year loyal customer willing to take every bit of that cost and still walk. That is the story worth understanding. Because it is playing out on farms across the Corn Belt right now, not just in Tennessee. Walk any Ritchie Brothers or Big Iron auction lot across Iowa, Illinois, and Nebraska today. Count the late Model 8R and 9R units sitting under tarps. Look at the hours on those machines, hours that would have been impossible to find on the used market 10 years ago because operators held onto their green iron and defended it. Late Model 8R and 9R units sitting unsold at auction, hours that should not be there. Those machines are not worn out. They are structurally sound equipment being moved off farms because keeping them running through the authorized dealer network crossed a financial line the equipment itself never justified. The auction lot is where brand loyalty shows up in dollar terms, and right now the signal is hard to ignore. The 4T120 your grandfather ran for 15,000 hours is not the 8R sitting on your lot today. That old machine was built so the person running it could fix it, in his own shop, with his own tools, on his own schedule. The new one runs through proprietary software that requires authorized dealer access to diagnose, clear codes, and return to full operation. Your grandfather owned his machine completely. You own yours only as far as the software allows. John Deere was founded in 1837. For most of that history, the green paint meant something specific. Equipment built to last, built to be worked on, built to be handed down through generations. The 6R, 7R, 8R, and 9R lineup became the ladder a farmer climbed as his operation grew. The local dealer knew your father, knew your brother, knew the farm kid you hired during harvest. That relationship was real, and it earned the loyalty it received. But that relationship changed, and it changed at the corporate level, not at the dealer counter. Through the 2010s and 2020s, independent family-owned John Deere dealerships across the Corn Belt were absorbed into large multi-state dealer groups. The family name came off the sign. Decision-makers moved to regional offices far from the farms they served. The man behind the parts counter may still care, but the policy sitting above him answers to a different set of priorities now. Family dealer became corporate dealer group. The relationship changed from the top down. At the same time, JD Link connectivity, remote diagnostics, and precision agriculture feature subscriptions layered ongoing costs onto equipment already carrying a premium price tag. The tractor became a platform. The platform became a service relationship. The service relationship became a recurring revenue line on a corporate earnings report, and the farmer who built the brand's empire started feeling like a captive account instead of a valued customer. The farmer most exposed to this shift sits right in the 1,000 to 5,000 acre range, big enough to need late-model equipment with the full technology stack. Small enough that every repair bill hits the operating budget directly. Big enough to be told he needs the connectivity package. Small enough that losing one planting day can define the entire season. That farmer is not buying brand identity. He is buying uptime and reliability. $1,000 to 5,000 acres. This is the farmer John Deere started losing first. The betrayal did not land in one invoice. It came through parts priced above what the open market would support. It came through service calls that needed a dealer laptop to complete. It came through the slow realization that the machine in his shed had a gate on it, and the company in Moline, Illinois, held the key. Before we go further, if Farm Gear Pro is giving you the real coverage you have been looking for, hit subscribe right now. We cover this every week. Brand against brand, real numbers, no dealer sponsorship. Hit like on this video and share it with any farmer about to make a major equipment purchase. They need to see this first. Back to it. Now the courtroom, because the legal record confirms exactly what farmers had been saying for years. January 15, 2025. The Federal Trade Commission filed a formal antitrust lawsuit against John Deere over its repair restriction practices. The complaint stated that Deere used practices that drove up repair costs and blocked farmers from making timely fixes on equipment they owned. By June 2025, a federal judge had denied John Deere's motion to dismiss the case. FTC antitrust lawsuit. John Deere. January 2025, motion to dismiss. Denied June 2025. The lawsuit did not create farmer frustration. It confirmed what farmers already knew from personal experience. John Deere has publicly defended its repair policies, but a farmer standing next to a locked combine at 4 a.m. during harvest does not care how reasonable the software policy reads in a legal brief. He cares whether the machine runs. April 2026 brought the first major financial resolution in this legal fight. John Deere reached a $99 million class action settlement and committed to a 10-year program providing diagnostic tools and repair access to farmers and independent shops across the country. The FTC antitrust case remains active as of May 2026. The settlement closed the class action, but the central regulatory question is still moving through federal court. $99 million class action settlement, April 2026. FTC case still active, May 2026. USPERG estimated John Deere's repair restrictions cost American farmers roughly $4.2 billion per year. Against that number, $99 million is less than 3 weeks of annual financial impact. The class action is closed. Whether the business model itself violates federal antitrust law is still being decided by a federal judge right now. John Deere's CEO received total compensation of $27.8 million in 2024, documented in the SEC proxy statement, publicly available to anyone who pulls it. A farmer does not need to resent success to feel the weight of that number. American farmers built John Deere's market position over generations. They bought the iron, paid the invoices, and defended the brand at every co-op conversation. When that same company locks diagnostic access behind an authorized dealer terminal and the CEO collects $27.8 million, the emotional contract breaks. $27.8 million. CEO compensation. 2024. SEC proxy statement. Public record. That break does not show up in a press release. It shows up in a Tennessee farmer loading 10 tractors onto trailers and driving away from a dealership where his family name was on the wall. It shows up in auction lots full of late-model green iron that should not be there. It shows up in a $330,000 fleet trade that every neighboring farmer heard about before lunch. Now let's talk about who Massey Ferguson actually is, because the brand identity matters here. Massey Ferguson is the volume tractor brand owned by AGCO Corporation, an American company headquartered in Duluth, Georgia. AGCO was founded in 1990, and its portfolio includes Massey Ferguson, Fendt, Valtra, Heston, and Gleaner, names that have been in American sheds for generations. The John Deere sales pitch has always leaned on American identity, but AGCO is a Georgia company with deep American agricultural roots. AGCO Corporation, Duluth, Georgia, American headquartered. Massey Ferguson, Fendt, Gleaner, Heston. Massey Ferguson tractors are assembled in Jackson, Minnesota, and at global plants including Beauvais, France. That assembly footprint matters in 2026 because the tariff environment is not theoretical. U.S. assembled units carry less exposure to the 15% European export tariff pressure that hits AGCO's Fendt brand and Valtra harder. The red tractor on the lot is not just a cheaper machine, it is a different corporate bet in a different trade environment. The Massey Ferguson 8S series sits right where these fleet trades are happening, built around the 200 to 300 horsepower class with the 8S 265 at the top of the common lineup. It is not trying to replace every high horsepower need on every acre in America. But for the middle of the fleet where planters, grain carts, tillage tools, and utility horsepower overlap, it gives a farmer a real way out of the John Deere ecosystem at $30,000 less per unit. Massey Ferguson 8S series, 200-300 horsepower, $30,000 cheaper per unit. Middle fleet replacement. That way out becomes powerful when the premium brand has started feeling less premium and more extractive. Massey Ferguson did not have to be perfect. It just had to be good enough, available enough, and priced low enough to expose how much green loyalty was actually costing. AGCO has publicly supported farmers' right to repair their own equipment, including access to tools, diagnostic information, and service documentation to maintain and fix their machines independently. That position does not make AGCO a charity. It makes AGCO a competitor smart enough to hear exactly where John Deere left the door open. And in 2026, that door has never been wider. AGCO publicly supports right to repair, farmer diagnostic access, independent service. John Deere sits at roughly 53% of the U.S. large tractor market as of 2024 industry estimates. That kind of share gives a company pricing power, dealer power, software power, and emotional power over its customer base. But market share can hide rot for a long time, and the 30-year customer walking out the door is the most reliable early signal that the rot has started. AGCO runs 2 lanes against John Deere simultaneously, and that 2-lane strategy is the part Moline should be losing sleep over. Massey Ferguson attacks the middle of the John Deere fleet, the everyday row crop horsepower range where most commercial farm hours get logged. It wins on price, on right to repair posture, and on the growing resentment toward dealer dependency that John Deere built into its own customer base. Massey Ferguson attacks the middle. Fendt attacks the premium. Same parent company. AGCO's Fendt brand, built in Bavaria, Germany, attacks the premium end. The Fendt Vario transmission, in production since 1995, targets the farmer who still wants a high-specification machine but no longer believes John Deere deserves the automatic first call. Both brands sit under the same American-headquartered parent company. That is the competitive structure John Deere is facing in 2026. International Harvester is the historical warning that every John Deere executive should be reading right now. International Harvester dominated American agriculture for decades. Dominant brand, dominant dealer network, dominant market position. Then internal decisions, financial overreach, and a failure to maintain the customer relationship brought the company to its knees. The equipment survived on farms long after the corporate structure collapsed. The brand did not. International Harvester dominated. Then the customer relationship broke. Then the brand fell. Brands do not fail all at once. They fail slowly. One 30-year customer at a time, one fleet trade at a time, one auction lot at a time, until the damage is too visible to explain away in a quarterly earnings call. By the time Wall Street sees it in the numbers, farm country has already known for 2 years. The farmer who left John Deere in 2026 did not betray the brand. Charles Hayes did not forget decades of history when he loaded those 10 tractors. Kent Harlson did not trade 11 machines because he wanted to make a statement. The third operator did not walk away from 4 paid-off 8R units because he was bored. They moved because the price gap, the repair culture, and the dealer relationship all pointed the same direction at the same time. The farmers did not leave the brand. The brand left the farmers first. Green paint had become too expensive to trust without doing the math. Red paint had become good enough to test seriously. And once a commercial operator runs the 5-year total cost of ownership comparison, purchase price, fuel cost, repair access, downtime exposure, and resale value, the green premium has to justify itself on every line. Right now in 2026, it is not justifying itself on enough of them. John Deere is not finished. The brand still carries the largest dealer network in American agriculture, the deepest financing infrastructure, and recognition built across 4 generations of farm families. That does not disappear because 3 case studies made headlines. But the old spell is broken, the automatic first call is no longer automatic, and the farmer who once would not even say out loud that he was considering alternatives is now running the numbers at the kitchen table. John Deere still has scale, but the automatic loyalty is gone. The farmer is running the numbers now. The American farm equipment market in 2030 will not look like 2018. It may not be a world where every farmer runs red or every farmer abandons green, but it will be a world where John Deere has to earn the sale again, from the same 30-year customers it spent the last decade treating like captive accounts. And earning it back is a lot harder than keeping it in the first place. Farm Gear Pro is going to keep tracking every fleet trade, every court development, every auction result, and every dealer network shift as this story continues to build. Because this is the equipment and business story that matters most to the American farmer's bottom line right now.